You mentioned Lev Parnas. Here is a quick soundbite from the interview last night at MSNBC. We'll ask you specifically about this comment here.
President Trump knew exactly what was going on. He was aware of all of my movements. I wouldn't do anything without the consent of Rudy Giuliani or the president. I have no intent, I have no reason to speak to any of these officials. I mean, they have no reason to speak to me.
I saw the statement from Stephanie Grisham out late last night. I know he also implicated Bill Barr in this, and apparently the DOJ said 100% false. What is the White House's position on his allegations that are now public?
Well, remember, people who go on TV are never under oath. This is someone who hadn't come forward on his own volition. He was arrested and then indicted on some pretty serious charges. And when you have the Vice President's Chief of Staff, my colleague Mark Short, this morning saying that the Democrats' own witnesses in the House completely subvert and undercut what Parnas is saying here about the VP. You have the Attorney General's spokeswoman saying 100% false when asked by the Maddow Show to comment. I think that speaks for itself.
Are you saying flat out 100% what he alleges is not true? Yes or no?
Well, when Lev Parnas says, speaking of the court of law, when he says the president knew all of my moves, he gave consent. Objection, you cannot say what somebody else knew or thought. You can't do that. And so that was a TV show, not a court of law. And this is somebody who, I guess, lied to the authorities about his wealth when they were setting his bail, because remember, he's been indicted. And the president, I think you should go by what the president himself has said. And remember, this started out, we're going to find those 70,000 votes and switch the election to Hillary Clinton. Then we're going to do Russia collusion. Wait, there's going to be a recession. Then we'll have 2 years of a Mueller investigation. Didn't find anything there. Now it's a call with the Ukrainian president. Do you know the major networks have spent less than 1% on the president's economy and trade, and most of their time in Ukraine?
Is he lying or not, Kellyanne?
Well, he's a proven liar. He's been indicted. And so I've never heard the president mention this person to me ever a single time. Just as when I was campaign manager for Trump-Pence 2016, nobody ever said to me, you know what, we have a plan B. There's a ripcord we can pull if it's really getting bad in the polls. We have a secret plan to beat her. It's this Russian stuff. No one ever said that to me. I didn't speak to Russians. I spoke to people not in Moscow, but in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, and Macomb County, Michigan. Same thing here. The idea that you need to investigate the Bidens to defeat Joe Biden. Have you seen this man when he tries to put a sentence together on a debate stage or in front of voters? Nobody needs any help beating Joe Biden. As with Hillary Clinton, everything you need is right there when they speak.
I think but to just finish on that point, it's a yes or no question. Trump knew exactly what was going on, said Lev Parnas, and we're asking, is that statement true or false?
Trump knew what was going on. How? In other words, what is Lev Parnas actually saying? He's saying the president knew all of my moves. I wouldn't have done it without consent of the president. Where did he get consent of the president to do that? The president knew what? The president doesn't need, again, you heard the call with President Zelensky. There was no call for an investigation of the Bidens. He said people are talking about the Bidens, and they were. All right. The New York Times, New Yorker, CNN, they were, The Hill, Fox News. Everybody was talking about if Hunter Biden's tumultuous personal life and dubious business dealings in China, Ukraine, and elsewhere were fair game and would indeed help derail his father's presidency. Of course, Joe Biden is seen more right now as Hunter Biden's father than Barack Obama's vice president, since the latter won't even endorse
it. All right, we'll
him.
see where all of that goes next.
At this point, you'd have to give Kellyanne Conway a Scantron sheet if you even want to come close to getting a yes or no answer from her. And look, I'm not saying that Kellyanne proved that Lev Parnas was telling the truth about Trump knowing everything with her inability to answer the question. I'm just saying that if she had the chance on 3 separate occasions to exonerate Trump, she probably would have taken it. Granted, this is what Kellyanne gets paid to do. Since day one, the White House has trotted her out to obfuscate and distract and point in every single direction other than the one right in front of all of our faces. Which is why, when asked the very, very simple yes or no question as to whether or not Lev Parnas was lying when he said that Trump was aware of everything that was happening in Ukraine, Kellyanne brought up the difference between TV and courtrooms, Hillary Clinton, Russian collusion, a recession, the Mueller probe, the economy, that Parnas has been indicted, the 2016 election, Joe Biden, the Democratic debate, Hillary Clinton again, the Bidens again, the media, the Bidens yet again, and Barack Obama. And look, I know Kellyanne is put in the difficult position of defending the indefensible, considering her boss is physically incapable of not committing crimes, but her strategy of pointing at shiny things in every which direction is definitely not doing him any favors in the believability department. You gotta love too that one of her arguments is that Lev Parnas can't be trusted because he's been indicted, and so instead we're supposed to defer to Trump, who was just impeached, which is the equivalent of, wait for it, an indictment. The simple fact is that Parnas' accusation that Trump knew what was happening in Ukraine is largely corroborated. They clearly knew each other, as Parnas has released countless photos of himself and Donald Trump. Parnas was a known and close associate of Rudy Giuliani. Parnas was literally carrying out a mission in Ukraine that Trump himself was hell-bent on achieving and to this day references in his desperate attempts to attack Joe Biden. And Parnas' activities were validated when Pence's attendance at Zelensky's inauguration was revoked after Zelensky didn't grant Parnas the announcement of the Biden probe that he was seeking for Trump. I mean, this is just simple connecting the dots. And as the saying goes, if it looks like an international extortion scheme, if it sounds like an international extortion scheme. By the way, there's some poetic justice in the fact that it's not just photos of Parnas and Trump, although there are a lot. He has photos with Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Mike Pence, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Mike Huckabee, Trump's impeachment lawyer Pam Bondi, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, Don Jr., and just for good measure, Kellyanne Conway herself. And yet, if you asked Kellyanne point blank if she'd ever met Parnas herself, you'd only get a rambling diatribe about Hillary Clinton and Hunter Biden and the Russian collusion Democrat hoax. Kellyanne goes on to say that Parnas' interview with Maddow isn't trustworthy because that was just a TV show as opposed to a courtroom. Only we do just so happen to have a trial coming up, and Republicans are refusing to call any witnesses. In other words, they're trying to have it both ways, by claiming that the only way people like Parnas can be trusted is if they testify under oath, but at the same time, they won't allow him to testify under oath. And the same goes for the rest of the Trump administration officials who Lev Parnas and others have already implicated, including Mike Pence, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, Rick Perry, Bill Barr, Devin Nunes, Lindsey Graham, John Dowd, and Jay Sekulow. This isn't an administration, it's an entire cell block. The simple fact is that the allegations against these administration officials aren't unfounded. And so if we're going to even pretend to have a fair trial, if the senators are even going to pretend to be impartial jurors, then the question of having all relevant witnesses show up and testify is a no-brainer. Because a trial with no witnesses is nothing more than a cover-up.